Hey there, welcome to the channel. I want to tell you a story about an unfortunate little fellow whose name is Kvasir. Some people might pronounce it Kvasir. He certainly was an unfortunate little guy, unfortunate being. His story is the first half of the tale of the Mead of Poetry. I will tell you next week the second half of this story, because this whole story is pretty sad, as so many of them are, but because there's so many metaphors, you can easily relate to them, and these metaphors certainly tell a lot of truths. There's murder and mayhem in this thing, parts 1 and part 2. There's deception. And sometimes you just have to wonder, this story in particular could grab headlines if it happened today. So let's get started. For whatever the reason, the gods, the Asir and the Vanir, decided that their war was, futile, dumb. Nobody's going to win. Everybody's going to lose. So they decided on a peace pact. Now, they did a very ancient ritual that was not just symbolic of the peace, but it embodied the peace itself. All of them spat into this huge vat. Now, once this saliva, spittle, whatnot was in the vat from everybody, it was mixed, and they created a divine being by the name of Kvasir. Now, he was not only an embodiment of peace, but he was a walking, talking embodiment and distributor of all the known knowledge that existed in the cosmos at that time. Now, yeah, he helped the gods, but his main function, his main job was to go to Midgard and to uplift mankind, to help mankind be more in everything that it could and should be. So, in his journeys, it's unfortunate this little guy ran into these two very nasty dwarves. Now, after they got talking a while, these two turds realized what they had in Kvasir. They saw dollar signs. They realized that people would pay a lot of money if they had access to this guy. So instead of just holding him hostage and charging a fee, these two little murderous bastards cut him down. They killed him, chopped him up, and they put him in this huge vat. And as they cooked them down, some people even say these nasty turds even put in honey. Well, this is how we get the Mead of Poetry. Because anybody at that point who was lucky enough to have a drink of this mead would have fantastic ongoing inspiration and wisdom and eloquent speech. And they do it. And they carefully hid it in the back of their little hut. And soon after, they murdered poor little Kvasir. An elderly couple, Jotuns, came to them, husband and wife. And they said, what's going on? They had a conversation. And being the silver-tongued little bastards that they were, they talked the old man, the old Jotun, into going out in a boat with them. Now, they just loved their killing, these two little freaks. They sunk the boat. They killed the old man. They killed the old Jotun. So they come back, right? And they're telling the Jotun's now widow what happened. She is inconsolable. There's nothing that can help her. Well, the dwarves didn't care.
Yeah.
They grabbed a huge millstone and they beat her head in with it, split her brains out all over the floor.
Yeah.
They enjoyed that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
But
the gods noticed that they lost sight of Kvasir. So his last known location was those two little turkey dwarves, right? So they went to these two dwarves and said, "Hey, where is our boy Kvasir? He was here. We know he was here. Where is he?" And you know, they told the gods one really big whopper. They said, you know, this guy's wisdom was so great. Nobody could comprehend it. He wound up, because he couldn't disseminate it, he wound up choking and suffocating on all his wisdom. Now, all of the gods, except one, bought into that story. Odin knew that some kind of evil was afoot in Midgard. Well, you have the gods on one hand and you have the Jotuns on the other. Those two dingbat dwarves did not realize that the Jotuns they killed were the mom and dad of a major Jotun chieftain by the name of Suttung. Now, Suttung got word that his parents were missing. And he had a pretty good idea what the story was. And he already knew about these two little murderous bastards, these dwarves. So he didn't waste any time, and he sure as hell was not about to hear any stupid excuse. He grabbed these two little bastards and put them in a boat, had them row this boat way out to sea, and they stopped at this small rocky outcrop that was poking out of the ocean water. And he had them get off and sit on that rock. Now, there was barely enough room for the two of them. Now, as it happens, the tide was beginning to come in. Now, when the tide came in, that rocky outcrop would be covered, and those two little turds were gonna drown, just like they did to Sutton's father. Well, these guys weren't so tough. Now that the shoe was on the other foot, they're begging and pleading for their lives. Please, please, show mercy, show mercy. And then they looked at each other. We have something that you want, that you can use, that would be of great value. It's called the Mead of Poetry. Here's how it works. They explained it. And they said, you can have it all. You can have every drop as long as you spare our lives. Well, Suttung, being who he was, he wasn't exactly the most of guys. He decided that maybe he didn't need vengeance for his mother and father. He'd rather have that mead of poetry instead. So he put the turds back in the boat. They rowed back to shore. He let them live, and he took that mead of poetry back to his mountain strongholds. Now, that's the first half of this story. There's more coming. It'll come next week. But can you imagine, will you? Can you imagine, just for an instance, a divine being that was sent to earth to make things better for mankind, to help them make themselves better? Can you imagine that? Okay, hey, like the video, give it a like. Help this old man. I'm struggling. I need more subscribers. I'm trying for 500. Go on, hit that subscribe button. And by all means, it's a bish bader tater. Boom.